Hello and welcome to Ben and Matt Watch Game of Thrones.
Brought to you by the Sci-Fi Christian.
We're back.
We're back. It's been a long time, Matt.
It's been so long since we've been on video together.
I have short hair now.
Yeah.
Oh, we've seen all your comments. Where the bleep? It's season 2 videos.
I know.
Well, good news, bad news on that front. Bad news is season 2 videos are not coming.
But you are going to do a season 2 in review video, right?
Oh, I forgot about that.
You should do that.
Sometime, yes.
And this week, Game of Thrones is coming back for season 3.
Yeah, a week from yesterday, so March 31st. Actually, probably be a couple days ago by the time I get this released.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, I'm behind. I have not watched season 2, and I don't have it on my radar for the future. So, Ben, you're going to be getting some new hosts.
Yeah, so it might be a couple of weeks where it's just me, but in general, I think we'll have a couple other people on. So nobody can replace Matt, but we'll do our best. And actually, these will be the first Sci-Fi Christian productions that are without Matt.
That's true.
Unless we record weekly intros, which I suppose is possible. People love you.
You don't have to do that. Yeah, so if you want more of Ben and I together, you'll have to go to thescifichristian.com or check out our podcast, The Sci-Fi Christian, on iTunes. But for these videos, Ben, it's going to be you, and do you want to tell who your hosts are yet, or you want to wait?
I want to wait because I'm not quite sure who's going to show up on a given week. I'm inviting a bunch of people over to my house.
Okay.
But to keep you guys satisfied until next Sunday, here's what we're going to do tonight.
Okay, this is a good idea.
We're gonna fade out, and then I'm going to do a review of the brand new, newly released this month, Game of Thrones beer.
Whoa.
From Ommegang Brewery, Iron Throne Blonde Ale. Now, I enjoy beer, you do not.
I don't.
So that's why it's just going to be me in this. But I had my first bottle the other night. Loved it. So a little sneak preview there for you. But I'm going to have another one, do a review for you.
So is it going to be on this video right now they're watching?
Yeah, so we're going to fade away.
Whoa.
You're about to see me review Iron Throne Blonde Ale. Alright, welcome back everyone. Again, Ben DiBono from the Sci-Fi Christian here for you to review Game of Thrones Iron Throne Blonde Ale, the first of possibly many beers. I think they're going to kind of see how this one goes before they produce more, but likely the first of a series of Game of Thrones inspired beers from Ommegang Brewery. I'm not entirely sure I'm pronouncing the brewery name correctly, so if you're from the New York area and are familiar with Ommegang beers, you can correct me in the comments if I have led you astray on that. But in any case, here to talk to you about the brand new Game of Thrones beer. Before I get to the beer itself, I just want to give you a little information about my beer preferences so that you can kind of know where I'm coming from, how seriously you should take my opinion on this, because, you know, beer tasting is a little bit subjective, and if you don't line up with my taste at all, you might not want to take my opinion on this. So my beer preferences are, you know, first kind of come from the camp that says even bad beer is good beer most of the time. I do prefer craft beers. I don't like stuff like Budweiser, Miller, you know, all that kind of cheap mass-produced beer. Core is not my thing. But most craft beers I'm pretty good with. My favorite beer, I know I said I don't like mass-produced beers, but this is the one exception. My favorite beer is Guinness. Huge fan of Guinness. I think that they just have it has such a unique taste, especially the Guinness Draft. I like, you know, the Foreign Extra Stout and Generous Ale that comes out around Christmas time. Those are both really good, but, you know, for my money, Guinness Draft is about as good as it gets. But besides that, you know, I'm pretty open to most craft beers. I don't like stuff that's super hoppy, so I'm not a big IPA guy. Love Hefeweizen beer, you know, good German beer, that's great. Tend to kind of like the German, Belgian ales, very good. So not really huge in terms of having a big preference one way between light and dark beers. I like a bit of both, and I have beers on both sides that I haven't cared for that much. So it gives you a bit of an idea, at least, as far as where I'm coming from with my preferences. Now, first thing to consider with this beer is, and really with any beer, especially a beer that you're paying a fair amount of money. I mean, these bottles of Game of Thrones beer aren't cheap. I think they retail for like $10 a piece or something like that. So every part of this matters. So the first thing we got to consider is the presentation. So I want to show you here I have one of the bottles unopened. And the first thing you'll probably notice, be able to tell right away on even on the video, is that these are big bottles. I mean, it is expensive, but you do get your money's worth with this. This is, according to, right there on the label, 1 pint, 9.4 ounces. So I think that's like 25, almost 26 ounces you get right there. So definitely get your money's worth with that. ABV is 6.5%, so not a super strong beer, but stronger than kind of your average, kind of in that upper middle range. And you'll feel fair buzz if you drink this whole thing, as I did the other night. So it's not enough to get you smashed or anything, which is nice for those of us who don't enjoy being full out drunk, but it'll give you kind of that good buzz feeling that you might enjoy after having a beer. You'll notice that up here on the top, let's see if I can get a little closer, there is no bottle cap. It is corked, which I always like. I do enjoy collecting, bottle caps from different beers I try, but I do like beers that are corked. To me, it just kind of gives a bit more sense of quality. I mean, I suppose that's just a subjective aesthetic preference for me, but I do enjoy being able to open up my beers with a corkscrew. And the bottle's very nice too. You can kind of see there on the label, or I'll put up a picture later in the video of the label, but it's very nice, well-presented beer. So you're really going to get your money's worth, at least in terms of the presentation. If that's important for you, you're going to enjoy this beer. But of course, presentation isn't worth anything if the beer doesn't taste good. So how does it taste? Well, I for one really enjoyed it. I had my first bottle the other night. This will be my second bottle that I'm going to drink tonight. But I'm going to go ahead and open this up and pour it for you so you can see the color, you can see the head, see what all that looks like. And I'll be right back with the beer poured, and we can talk some about the taste and presentation when it's out of the bottle. Alright, so here I have the beer poured. You can see it has, a nice white head, not really off color, pretty white, and nice color throughout. Really lives up to its name as a blonde ale, which, by the way, when the beer was first announced, I remember some people being a little critical that it was a blonde ale because it's the Iron Throne and it should be something tough and dark. Yeah, but you got to remember that, and this is spoiler alert for anybody who isn't through the first season of Game of Thrones, that, which you should be by now, there's really no excuse. The Lannisters are on the throne, as of season 2, and they of course have blonde hair, so it fits well. I think they made a good choice in terms of it being a tie-in with the show. So love the way it pours, and I'm not an expert pourer, by the way, or anything like that. I've never been a bartender or anything, so I don't even know if this is the preferred glass for this type of ale. So some of you can no doubt do this much better than I can. Very much an amateur when it comes to all of this stuff. But really enjoy the presentation. This is probably about half of the contents of that bottle. And I think this is, 16 ounce glass, or maybe a little bit more than that. Probably more than 16 ounces, but there's still quite a bit left. So, having a good cup like this, and then having enough for almost one more full glass like that, again, you do get your money's worth of this. But the taste, that's really the important part. I really enjoyed this the other day when I had it. It kind of has that smooth blonde taste of, a lighter beer, but it also has a little bit of a kick to it. I wouldn't call it hoppy, but it does have a bit of oomph to it. And again, this is my beer amateur side coming out. I don't quite know how the technical terms to describe all that, but I'll go ahead and take a drink here. And yeah, I guess there is a little bit of hops there, but even for somebody like me who isn't huge into hoppy beer, it's not overpowering. This doesn't taste like an IPA or anything like that, or a super hoppy beer that's maybe going to be a turnoff to some of you. For me, it just tastes like a good, solid beer. Enough hops to make it a complex flavor. It's not dull. It's not, flat or lifeless the way that you get from, Budweiser or Coors or something like that. It tastes like a good, solid craft beer ought to. Complex taste, something that you can really enjoy and savor. Probably those of you who are more connoisseurs can really get all the distinct flavors out of this in a way that an amateur like myself is going to miss. So I think this is going to be a hit with craft beer fans. And then the final, so I really enjoy the taste, but then the final part of this that I want to talk about briefly is how well does it tie in to Game of Thrones? Because that's really the question. I mean, one of my big beefs as a fan of things is I absolutely hate it when fandom becomes exploitive. And what I mean by that is that, you have a company put out a product and they'll just slap Star Wars on it or whatever, and it's complete crap, or it has nothing to do with Star Wars, but they call it, Star Wars beer, Game of Thrones beer, or whatever the case may be, and all the fans rush out and buy it just because it says, say favorite franchise on it, and I can't stand that. I hate it when I do it, which I do sometimes. We're all fans, let's be honest, that's a trap we fall into. I can't stand that. I hate it when companies do that. So is this that case? Well, at least in terms of quality, it's not. This is a very high quality beer. But the second part of that then is, does it evoke Game of Thrones in any way? How well does it fit with what they're trying to bring out? And I think it does that actually very well. I was thinking about that when I had my first bottle the other day, and it does kind of recall that sort of Lannister-like qualities of, it looks nice, it looks like a nice light beer, but there's enough of that hoppy kick to it where it's going to surprise you a little bit. The alcohol content isn't so high where you instantly know, that this is going to be a strong beer. It's more subtle than that. It's high enough where it is going to get you buzzed, but it's not so high that it's going to knock you flat. Which, I think fits well with the Lannisters, kind of that schemy, devious side that's going to sneak up behind you and stab you in the back. Thankfully, this beer is much more pleasant than a knife to the back, and whatever else the Lannisters might do. But it does evoke those kind of Lannister-like qualities, so maybe I'm overthinking it, but as a fan, I'm satisfied not only with the quality of the beer and the taste and the body and everything with it, presentation. I'm also very pleased with how well it ties into the source material, which is important to someone like me, even if I'm just overthinking it to make my obnoxious fan side satisfied with this purchase. So last thing I'll cover: where to get Game of Thrones Iron Throne Blonde Ale. A couple places. If you go to Ommegang's website, which I think is just ommegang.com, you can Google it though, they do have a store locator where their stuff is sold, so you can use that for your local area. Otherwise, I did find mine. I actually ordered mine online because I didn't want to wait for it to be in stock locally here in the Twin Cities. So I ordered mine on halftimebeverage.com, and I'm not getting paid anything to plug them. That's just literally the only place I could find it online. So they seem to have very reasonable shipping rates. It's the first time I've ordered with them, but I was very pleased with their speed of getting me my order and their selection and their shipping prices. Shipping is always kind of expensive with beer, but they were fairly reasonable. So check them out if you can't find it locally, but definitely pick some up and do it soon, because this Sunday, March 31st, Game of Thrones Season 3 starts, and I expect all of us Game of Thrones fans to be there, hoisting our Iron Throne Blonde Ale as we watch whatever it is that HBO has in store for us in Season 3. So I'll be back then with more videos. Until then, drink up. So that was the review. As you saw, I strongly recommend you go and get some immediately. Delicious beer.
Wow, so would you say that this is your favorite beer right now?
Oh no, I'm a Guinness fan.
Okay.
Guinness is my number one.
You might have mentioned that on the review, but I haven't actually seen it.
That's okay. That's okay.
Wow. So
yeah, because it hasn't even been recorded yet in our timeline.
So Game of Thrones. Here's what you can look forward to. Ben's gonna do a season 2 review in whole. Yeah. Every week you'll have your weekly episode just like we used to do.
Right.
And you have the beer episode now.
The beer
what
episode.
Other Game of Thrones things can I look forward to? Anything with tea or, I mean...
They haven't done any teas, but if they do a tea, Adagio.com just started doing a geek-themed tea of Doctor Who and The Hobbit, so if they come out with a Game of Thrones one, I'll pick it up and do that.
Wow, what about Game of Thrones pipe smoking? Do they have that?
They don't have any pipes yet.
Because you just bought your book.
Yeah. Middle Earth and Pipe Smoking. Strongly recommend it.
Yeah.
Go check it out.
Wow. So who knows where these Game of Thrones videos are going to go?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple Game of Thrones video games out, but I haven't played any of them, so that wouldn't work. Yeah, presumably Martin will write another book at some point and publish it.
We've been talking on the Sci-Fi Christian about the potential prequel to Game of Thrones.
That's
so
right.
watch for that on HBO in, I'd say, 2 years.
Yeah. Or thereabouts. And speaking of the book review I did for Dance of Dragons, thank you, all of you who have watched that. We're at 11,000 views and
Holy
counting.
cow, nice
which,
job.
in the grand scheme of YouTube, isn't that much, but in the grand scheme of the Sci-Fi Christian...
That's our highest watched video ever.
Yeah, so far. But you guys could spread the word about my review of Iron Throne Blonde Ale, and we'll blow that one out of the water.
Yes. Awesome. Well, I think that's all from here. I'm Anderson.
And I am Benji Bono.
And we are the Sci-Fi Christian, signing off.
Goodbye.